Hello everyone, this is DM Gashbad. With Avengers Infinity War about to be released, I went and took out my Knight Models Thanos, which I got a while ago, and I finally went and painted him up, and I cajoled a couple people to go and play a game of the Marvel Universe miniature game. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Marvel Universe miniature game, and specifically the Thanos model in that, let me give you a brief history of this kind of thing. Time was Knight Models made these really nice metal miniatures of licensed products. They did some Star Wars ones, they did some DC ones, they did some Marvel ones. Eventually they went and took some of these models and they made a rule set. And of course first they made the Batman miniature game, but they also went and made the Marvel Universe miniature game. The thing was that when they released the Marvel Universe miniature game, a couple of their models that they had created previously, when they just were making licensed miniatures just for you to collect and paint and all that kind of thing, they'd gone out of production. They weren't making them right away. So they went, they made the Marvel Universe miniature game, they released a couple of models, that kind of thing. And everyone just assumed that they would eventually release rules and re-release the models for the things that they had made originally. Eventually that was kind of true. A couple of rules for these models, they called them the Magnificent Seven, the models that were discontinued after they created the game. And they were pretty big names too. They were Dr. Octopus, Venom, Elektra, Loki, Superior Spider-Man, Goblin Knight, and of course Thanos. So anyway, some of these rules started appearing on their website, some of them were leaked, that kind of thing. And everyone thought, oh cool, they're eventually going to release those models. But no, they all of a sudden announced they had lost their license to produce the Marvel Universe miniature game. The whole thing folded up, they don't sell them anymore, and you're done. So all the people that were collecting that game, who still wanted to play, they thought, oh no, how am I going to get these models? They have rules for it, I want to use them, but they haven't made them for like years. Well, maybe not that long, maybe just months. But anyway, there was this rush to kind of grab some of these guys before they all disappeared, which they eventually did, and now they're really hard to get a hold of. I was lucky enough to get myself a Thanos, but anyway, they're called the Magnificent Seven. They're the very hard to get models for the Marvel Universe miniature game. And anyway, I finally got my hands on a Thanos, and now with his big movie coming out, I wanted to use him in a game. So what we've got is we've done the scenario Big Combat. That's where you got two champions in the middle, and I took Thanos. He's going to be my entirety of my group. He's 20 levels, so it's going to be just a real small game right here. And I let my opponents, there's two of them, two new players, I let them choose whoever they wanted. I didn't worry about factions or anything like that. Just take three models that more or less add up to about 20 levels. And they chose Black Panther, cool, Deadpool, all right, and Gamora, interesting, okay. So that's kind of a, you could do a lot worse than those models right there. We got two assassins. I think they're all pretty points efficient models. I think they're all pretty good, but we'll see how it goes. So here's a picture of the table that we're going to be playing on. It's my normal industrial park kind of construction area. And we have to choose our two highest point, or our two highest level models and put them in the dead center. Those are going to be our champions. They're going to be fighting each other in the beginning of the game. So they're in base-to-base contact in the dead center of the board. I've only got one model, so Thanos, of course, the Mad Titan, is going to go right in the middle there. And Gamora is 9 levels, so she's more levels than both Wade Wilson and T'Challa, so she's going to go in the middle too. In the first round of combat, both these guys get +2 to all their defenses. Here are the remaining models. Now, my opponents, one person's playing Gamora and the other person is playing Black Panther and Deadpool. And I think the Black Panther Deadpool, they're not keen to get too close to Thanos. They're not sure what this guy can do, and so they're gonna skulk way over there. Now, the rules of the scenario are that you can deploy within 6 inches of any table edge, but Black Panther has infiltrate, which means he can just show up wherever. So they're gonna just hang back a little bit and see how Gamora does for a while before they commit themselves completely. So we go into the Bag of Destiny and we draw a counter, and unsurprisingly Thanos draws his. I say unsurprisingly because he's the Mastermind ability, which means you remove one of your opponent's counters and draw and replace it with one of your own. So he's got a lot more counters than my opponent. The first thing that he's going to do, because his defenses are kind of low, he's got 14s more or less across the board, he's going to use his force field, and he's going to bump his physical and energy defense up by 2. He's then going to take his big yellow Infinity Gauntlet, and he's going to go and punch Gamora. He's going to use a Titan Punch. Gamora goes and uses a power to up her defense, but he still hits, which is nice because his attack is not amazing. But anyway, it does a massive 4 damage right away. And he's not done. He's going to go and grab Gamora, and he's going to throw her over there. He's got a strength of 5. So he's going to hit, he's going to do 4 damage. He's going to just wreck that fence on the way by because, why not? And that'll be it for his turn, but Gamora is knocked down and in the pail. So that was a pretty good opening salvo. Next up for the heroes, Black Panther is going to go, and I did try to tell my opponents that they set those guys way too far away. They would have been much better trying to get up close to try and put damage on Thanos as soon as possible, but, you can't tell some people some things. So anyway, Black Panther, he's going to spend 2 power to move, and he's going to do another power to pounce. So he's going to move up the table, hopefully get into the fight sooner rather than later. Gamora goes next. She's going to stand up, she's going to run forward a little bit, and she's going to fire her blast gun at Thanos. Now, Thanos has resistance 1, so that means he takes 1 damage off of every attack that lands, and Gamora's blast gun only does 1 damage. So she needs to get a crit in order to hurt this guy at all. And just to make sure that he's not going to take any damage too early, he goes and defends. So he ups his energy defense by another 2. That'll bring him up to 18. So Gamora ends up just missing. Deadpool is just way too far away, so he moves normally. He decides not to use his body slide ability at this time, so he just kind of creeps forward. Again, I think he's not super eager to get into this fight. I mean, this isn't even his movie franchise. I don't know what he's doing there at all. So it's the next turn, and we reach into the Bag of Destiny, and the heroes draw their counter this time, which is nice. Gamora is going to activate first. She's going to use her Most Dangerous Woman in the Universe ability. That means she's +1 to all her defenses, and she also does 1 extra damage, which is kind of a big thing. She's going to move forward into contact with Thanos there, say, "Hi, Dad," and she's going to use her Blade Swing twice. Thanos, in the first attack, I believe you can only do 1 reaction per attack. So for the first Blade Swing, he's going to use his Force Field, and for the second Blade Swing, he's going to up his physical defense. But it doesn't matter. Gamora has a sky-high attack. She's got Close Combat Master, meaning she's re-rolling one of those dice. She manages to get 2 Blade Swings through, and because she's +1 damage, even with his resistances, he's going to take a total of 4 damage. It's my activation next, and Thanos just passes. I'm going to wait a little bit. Next, it's going to be Deadpool. Wade Wilson is going to move up, and he's going to try to trick Thanos. He's going to say, "Hey, look over there." But Thanos, he's too smart for that kind of thing. He passes his willpower check, and so he doesn't get his defense reduced. Deadpool next tries Bang Bang. He pulls out a gun and tries to shoot Thanos. Well, that goes about as well as you would expect. He hits, but it causes absolutely no damage. Thanos just laughs. Okay, it's Thanos' turn, and surprisingly, he kind of shuffles away from Gamora, just struts about into the middle of these heroes, and he uses his ability Cosmic Nova. It is a red ability. He can only do this once per game, but it's a radial attack. So everything within 5 inches is going to take 6 damage. Now, the good news here is that all of these characters have reasonably high agilities, and I think all of them are acrobats. So they all pass their agility rolls, and so they only take half damage. But still, that takes a big bite out of all these guys. It also clears out a whole bunch of the terrain. So it destroys a shipping container, one of those pallets with the oil drums, that propane tank I got painted a while ago. So yeah, he's just, and it takes a chunk out of that giant skyscraper there. So that thing's almost destroyed as well. Black Panther's the last to activate. He's going to move forward. He's going to use his Savage Strike ability. He's got some really good abilities for this. He has the Irresistible trait on all of his attacks, which means that if he hits, he'll do full damage. Thanos' resistances won't reduce the amount of damage. So anyway, he uses the Savage Strike. He's going to hit, and Thanos is going to take another 2 damage. Even though he did try to defend, he tried to up his physical defense by another 2. His defenses go away after he activates, so he has to redo that. But yeah, so all these guys have really high attacks. Gamora and Deadpool both have the abilities to reroll dice. They have some pretty good abilities to take out Thanos. This is not bad. But at the end of the round, Gamora is in the pale from all that damage that she had taken that first round. So she goes and she does pass out. So she's unconscious at the beginning of this round coming up. Okay, it's a new round, and Thanos takes the lead again. He doesn't need to move anywhere, so he just goes and hauls back and Titans punches Black Panther. He managed to get a crit, which means Black Panther is going to take a mighty 5 damage, even though he tried to evade that by upping his defense. But he's going to take his other hand and he's going to punch him again. He doesn't crit, but he does another 4 damage, so that's a ton. And he's going to finish all this up by taking him and he's going to throw him. Now, thankfully, he finally misses that attack, but Black Panther has just taken a pile of damage from all of that. In fact, he is in the red at this point, but he does pass his stamina roll to stay standing. So that was a lot of damage. On the other hand, though, Thanos is completely out of power, so he's going to have to weather the next round of attacks with just his physical and energy defense at 14. So it's now all the activations for my opponent. The first person to go is going to be Black Panther. He's going to do 2 Savage Strikes. The first one is going to hit and is going to cause that 2 damage. The second one is going to, unfortunately, miss. Next, my opponent activates Gamora. Thankfully, Gamora does pass her stamina check, and she gets up again. So she shakes off that big cosmic explosion in the middle of the table. She stands up, she moves in, and she takes 2 blade swings at her adoptive father. She is going to hit twice, and she's going to do a total of 2 damage. Finally, it's Deadpool's activation. He's just going to move that short distance forward, and he's going to try his red ability, Armor Buster. And he gets it, and not only does he hit it, he also hits it for a crit, which is going to do a total of 3 damage and get the distract effect on Thanos, which means his physical defense goes down by 2. So finally, he's going to follow that up with a stab, which obviously he's going to hit. He does 1 point of damage, and now Thanos is in the pale. So at the end of the round, everyone has to make stamina checks, except for Deadpool, who's just regenerating there. He's slowly healing the damage he took from that cosmic nova that Thanos did. Gamora and Black Panther both pass out. They fail their stamina checks, so they just sort of teeter over in the midst of this epic brawl. Thanos, however, he's got a stamina of 12. He stays up. Okay, next round, and the heroes take the lead again. So my opponents activate Deadpool first. He starts off with a stab. Thanos reacts to that by using his force field, but it doesn't matter. Wade crits him for a whole 2 damage. So Thanos is kind of getting chipped away here. Deadpool then goes for another stab. Thanos reacts to that by defending his physical defense, so he's gone up to physical defense of 18. However, Deadpool still hits for another 1 point of damage. Thanos is now in the red, and so he has to make an immediate stamina test. He does pass that, but it's getting a little bit serious here. Okay, now here's the thing. So I could have done a bunch of things here. Thanos has another area attack he could have tried. He could have just taken 1 Titan Punch off to one side, and taken out Gamora. He could have taken out another Titan Punch with Black Panther and taken him out. He could have picked up one of those 2 and thrown them at the other and gotten rid of both of them. But the fact is that I am kind of sick of Deadpool. He's not my favorite comic character, and this is just really what I want to do, even if it means that it's maybe not the most action-efficient thing I could have done. What I want to do is I just want to grab Deadpool's stupid head, because it's right there, and he's out of power, so he can't defend against this, and I'm going to throw him. Now again, Thanos' throws cause 4 damage, and I can throw him 10 inches, which is kind of hilarious. So Thanos just grabs Deadpool by the head and tosses him into that dumpster over there, which I feel is completely appropriate. Throw that guy in the trash. And then he's going to follow up, since he's down there on the ground, he's going to shoot him with a cosmic rain. So he tosses him, nails him into that dumpster over there, and then he puts a big energy beam into his head. And so he's going to do a total of 7 damage in there. That's going to put Deadpool in the pale. Unfortunately, Thanos has taken his attention away from Gamora, and so she stands up again. She passes her stamina check, and she gets up, and she takes 2 blade swings. Thanos is going to go, and he's going to defend. He's just activated, so he has to do that again, but he's got 1 power left to do it. So that'll put him back up to physical defense of 18. But even so, Gamora hits him twice, and she gets a crit with 1, so Thanos is going to take a 3 damage, and he is in trouble. I think he is 1 away from being taken out. And so that leads us to Black Panther. Black Panther needs to wake up, and he does. Black Panther wakes up, he stands up for 1 power, and he pulls off his Savage Strike. He has just enough power to overload it, so he fires off 1 Savage Strike. It hits Thanos. Thanos takes 2 damage, and Thanos goes down. Thanos is defeated by this motley band of heroes. So that was pretty fun. Obviously, this was just a very small game. It was just kind of for laughs. We weren't playing super strategically or anything like that. There were a couple of things that my opponents could have done better, moving in and attacking right from the get-go. There's obviously a couple of things that I could have done better. I didn't focus on those guys on the ground. On the one hand, they could have just stayed sleeping, and I could have been fine. But this is actually what happened. I certainly didn't really need to focus all my attention on Deadpool. I could have done something a little bit more efficiently, but I just wanted to throw that guy and immediately shoot him with a big cosmic beam. So there that is. I hope you enjoyed that game. I did want to try out Thanos. In the Marvel Universe miniature game, a lot of the really big models, they don't really seem to pull their weight so much. I mean, I'm talking about like Hulk or the Hulk Buster. Sentry does pretty well. So I was really curious about how effective Thanos would be. And honestly, for 20 levels, that guy is serious business. His defenses are really low, and he doesn't, his normal movement isn't fantastic, but all of his attacks are really efficient. So long as you are in punching range, that Titan punch for costing 4 power and doing 4 damage, and him having a 12 power, 13 when he's in the gray, it's nice. Granted, I was rolling a little hot. His attack 7 in the beginning, 6 after he goes into the pale. That's not great, but even so, his action economy and the attacks that he can throw out there are pretty impressive. And that's to say nothing about things like the force field, and he has an ability where he can kind of teleport around the field. Yeah, I would definitely use this guy in another game. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any comments or concerns or questions. And I will see you on the next one.